This is Scott Morrow of Plutocracy Planet, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studio is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on X at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Scott Morrow from Plutocracy Planet.
Yeah, promoting the new album, self-titled album. It has a host of guest musicians on it. Fantastic. He's located out of Chicago.
Yep.
Let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. Scott, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Scott, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for willing to do this. We're excited to have you. So let's get right into it. This past July, Plutocracy Planet released its self-titled album. Can you give our listeners an insight to the writing and recording to this newest musical endeavor of yours?
Yeah. Well, it was sort of born out of the pandemic shutdown. I hadn't worked on my own music in a really long time. I used to play in the band Spitalfield with my buddy Mark Rose long time ago, and had some other kind of artsy post-hardcore projects, and made my own electronic music long time ago, just for myself, just for fun, and transitioned into being a music writer and editing a music magazine, and so shifted away from music writing writing music for myself. Mm-hmm. And when it was something that I always kind of had in the back of my mind, something I wanted to do was basically a solo project, mixing a lot of different styles together and involving as many other talented friends and people I looked up to as possible. And when the quote unquote big pause happened, I was like, well, what do I do with my time now? I don't know. I'd never really even messed around with a copy of GarageBand on my computer. So just started poking around in there and programming some stuff for fun. Yeah, just sort of reached out to my buddy Mark, who produced it with me, Mark Rose, and laid things out for the general idea of it. And he expressed an interest in producing it with me, and without his help, none of this really probably would have happened. And he was also hugely consequential in bridging a lot of the connections that for a lot of the guests that actually ended up on the album. So yeah, it was just sort of this overambitious idea that took ultimately 4 years to finish. Between how sprawling it is and how many people are involved, and I don't know if you also saw that I spent 8 months recovering from a gunshot wound and abscess infection. So there were a lot of setbacks along the way, but to finally have it out there now is very rewarding. I mean, just having completed this with so many incredible musicians, vocalists and instrumentalists alike, who I've looked up to for decades in some cases. It's really just an amazing thing that I'm proud of.
Yeah, well, if there were 12 tracks on the new album, with one or two being an intro and an outro, but can you talk a little bit about the selections for the tracks? Were they all recorded during this 4-year period, or some of the groundwork any older, or how did that work?
So by and large, this is all stuff that I laid the foundation on within, 3 or 4 months of in 2020 after things shut down. But, and then, they all kind of took their own course and took their own amounts of time to finish. But there were a couple little ideas that were held over. There was actually the fourth track, a simple refrain, sort of the acoustic number. Yeah. With Matt Pryor and Swanberger and my buddy Mike Kinsella, who played a little guitar on it too. The first kind of third of that track was something that I'd worked on, I think way back in 2006, sort of the main acoustic component to it, and the beat that you hear for pretty much that first third of the track. And all I had of it was an MP3 that was, again, sort of maybe a minute long idea, and just kind of built the rest off of that. And thankfully it sounded good enough to use. And Mark really helped out with the mixing it. And, so that was an interesting one where it was I've got not too much other material laying around really per se, but, we got a few other bits here and there that, might make future appearances.
Cool. Very good. Well, you recruited a wide variety of musicians that contributed on this album. Can you talk a little bit more about the recruitment of talent and the contributions of those artists? And, I guess maybe it's like kind of putting a puzzle together, trying to fit the right talent in for that song.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, initially, I had some ideas of some people I wanted to reach out to, and I wanted to involve, some of my very talented, good friends. Again, Mark being the first, and my buddy Bob Nana from Braid and Hey Mercedes. Mike Kinsella, I mentioned, was another person I wanted to reach out to. And then just other friends in local bands that are maybe not as big of names, but they all and then, I had some connections from my time editing Alarm magazine, and just people kind of connected with along the way. Even just Jonathan Hischke, for example, he's a virtuoso bassist who does a lot of really cool and experimental stuff, and he's playing with the Sound of Animals Fighting, and he's played with 100 bands probably. Just somewhat random sort of connection from the music writing days that connected with on Facebook, and then we just sort of started interacting about political stuff over the years, and just sort of that's a random example of someone I reached out to be like, hey, you wanna, again, a lot of this was well, no one else has got anything else going on right now necessarily. No one's touring, it was 2020. And just might as well shoot my shot with whoever, thinks this is a cool thing to kill some time with. So stuff like that, where he's yeah, okay, sure. I, help out on some tracks. And then, sort of, again, reached out to a lot of people I was already fans of, Nils and Carla from Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum. That's an amazing honor to get them on a track. And Jürgen Munkeby from Shining, the Norwegian Shining, not the Swedish Shining. Another, I've loved so much of his music, is incredible. And he's someone that I've known, over the years, and met up with the shows and sort of kept connected to, and was people were just really cool with helping out for the project. And, and then some, my friends, Mark and Bob, are like, oh, why don't you, they have another company called Downright. I don't know if you're familiar with Downright. They run, it's a platform for musicians, singer-songwriters, even just be instrumentalists, for fans or anyone really to commission custom songs from them. Mm-hmm. And so there were a lot of connections through that. And in terms of like piecing it together, song by song was kind of depended. It was in some cases like, Bob was one of the first to jump on, and I was like, well, I've got these few that are kind of, close to completion. And in some cases, it was just a matter of someone being like, oh, I dig this one. Let me do something with that. And in some cases, it was like, no, I think this person would be a great fit. Or like the 6th track, Slaughterhouse Soliloquy, was one that, and again, with a lot of the, with the vocalists, I kind of gave just the general gist of it. I wanted it to be a socio-political project, kind of rooted around greed and inequality, money and politics, and kind of branch out from there. And the album does touch on a lot of different themes. But I knew there was, and so I kind of like let whoever was writing the lyrics for a track kind of take it in their own direction with that as the backdrop. But there were a few specifically that I wanted, a few specific themes I wanted. And one was factory farming. I want to write it because I'm, I don't eat meat. And so like Swanberger, who crushed that one, the rap verses on that song, that was, a referral from a few other rappers that I reached out to. They're like, oh, he's vegan as shit, so you should talk to him. And I'm like, cool. And so it kind of depended, track by track, and the voices I thought would be cool, on each.
Very good.
Well, can you talk a little bit more about the blending of the indie synth pop with hip hop, and next thing you know, all of a sudden screaming guitars come out of there somewhere. So it was really cool. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, I kind of, like anyone, I've got my, styles, types of music that I gravitate towards, and, rock and hardcore and metal and heavy music in general is a big one. But I also love all types of music and sounds, and I, my favorite kinds of artists and bands are bands that do lots of things, and particularly the ones that combine them in a cohesive way. So I just kind of wanted to do it. It just kind of naturally became something that was like, well, this is gonna, I'm gonna want plenty of heavy kind of post-hardcore moments to it, and incorporate a lot of electronic elements and synths, and just try to weave in as much as I could. And in a lot of instances, that was even just digital instrumentation that is, virtual instruments, but there's a lot of live instrumentation on it too. So, I don't know. My tastes are just pretty eclectic. So, whether it's working in a little bit of like an avant, sax solo, or, adding some strings, or, sort of some down tempo kind of trip hop vibes, and some of the rap stuff and the acoustic vibes. Like, I just kind of wanted to piece a little bit of everything I love together, and hopefully it came off in a way that makes sense start to finish.
Very much so. Well, True Crime is my favorite track on this album. It gave me
thank you,
Switchblade Symphony vibes to it. Talk a little bit more about the creativity behind True Crime.
Yeah. I mean, so that's my friend Angela Mullenauer. She's an incredible vocalist. She's in the band Sybaris and Touched by Ghoul, and she's played in a bunch of local Chicago bands here. Touched by Ghoul actually got to they opened for Foo Fighters at Wrigley Field some years ago, which was a pretty insane yeah, she had to call everyone in the band, and they were like, "Okay, you're shut the fuck up. You're shitting me now." Like, she's like, "No, I'm serious. They want us to do this." Yeah, she's amazing, and honestly, like, I didn't really talk to her specifically about the lyrics to that one too much. I sort of take that one to mean sort of like I sort of take it as like, we all know that we like to be distracted from the real horrors of the world, and that's sort of like you can like juxtapose that to like interest in like true crime podcasts or whatever. Maybe that's like or just like the concept of quote unquote true crime, and to me, I take that to mean like we're all just kind of pleasantly distracted, some more than others, of course, and like I count myself as one who's like I'm more checked out than I should be most of the time, and everyone's living busy lives and has their own personal shit going on, and it's you can only spend so much time without driving yourself mad trying to pay attention to politics and disasters going around the world. But yeah, I take that one specifically to mean like a sort of like, well, this is sort of the true crime within all of us, and that's just me sort of interpreting that my own way. But yeah, I love what she did vocally with that too. I got a little sort of witchy vibe from what she did.
Absolutely. Yeah. The next track, Hours and Hours, Work Harder, Not Smarter, features Mark Rose. We've talked about him being the producer and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about his contributions to the album?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Mark, I can't say enough, just about what an amazing friend and person he is, and just extremely talented musician on top of it. And, he spent, ironically, hours and hours. That's not what this song is about. It's not about how many hours he put into producing it. Maybe.
Right.
But he put in a lot of work on this thing, and it was one of his, first real kind of. He's produced plenty of his own things, and produced things for other people too. But this was sort of his, one of his first, like, he wanted to, like, big projects to produce for someone else. And so I think that he learned a lot along the way too. And I could tell, some of the strides he made just from some of the early mixes to a couple years in to working on the next batch of tracks. And then, when we finished it off and just learning more about EQ and all the sorts of, technical stuff I know nothing about. It's like, oh, it sounds good, But yeah, he did so much cool stuff across the album in terms of little production bits. Like Slaughterhouse Soliloquy that I mentioned before was just, he did some really cool like chopping and editing with the chorus and some of the pitch shifted parts. And but yeah, Hours and Hours that he's the track that he's featured on was one that was he took the reins on that musically, where all the rest of the tracks were I basically fully sketched out the whole thing and was responsible for maybe 80 or 90% of the music that you hear. That's one where that was I was still kind of we can I mentioned briefly the my recovery from the gunshot, and that was an 8-month process. This was one that kind of came together during that time.
Okay.
I was still, I was in and out of the hospital 12 times during those 8 months. And so I was just trying the best I could to keep the project moving during that time when I was out of the hospital. And so that was one where we already had discussed it being a little more collaborative. And we share a lot of similar interests and, with overlapping styles of whatever on a lot of the kind of like emo and 80s stuff and rock in general, and like, heavier music too. And like Deftones is kind of our sweet spot. So I don't know that I wouldn't say that song has a Deftones vibe to it, but there's to me, it feels like kind of a sweet spot for our musical taste. But that was one where I gave him, he just wanted me to send him basically beats to like, each kind of major section of the song that I had in mind. And then he kind of arranged it and composed around it that way. And then I added just a little extra guitar and stuff to it. And yeah, that was the very final song that was completed.
Okay, cool. Very nice.
Where it was like, where I was waiting on all these other people to send in their, contributions over the years, and the one guy who's there working on all of it was the final one to lock in his vocals. So,
well, with the new album featuring so many guest musicians, will you have any plans supporting this album with any live shows or doing any type of local touring or regional touring at all?
No, I have no plans for that. It would be really cool. I think it would be a logistical nightmare, which is why I haven't set up anything. We had a release listening party here in Chicago for the release, and had a sort of an AV component to it, sort of a visualizer, plus about half the tracks have music videos too. So kind of put all that together to have on the screen and play the album, sell some records and all that stuff. And it was a great time, really moved by the people that came out. And, but no, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think a show it would have to be like a one-off special thing that I had, 6 months to plan for between trying to arrange a band and then still set up, all the backing tracks that would be necessary, and then figure out who's going to sing which tracks and which songs might need backing tracks for the vocals. And so, yeah, no tour, no shows, but maybe someday we'll see what happens for album 2.
Yeah, there you go. That kind of leads into my next question with your promotion for the album. Besides doing interviews and stuff, you also have a Bandcamp page. I'm a big fan of Bandcamp. I don't know if you can talk a little bit about your experience using that as a platform or other mediums that you're using for promotion of the album.
Yeah. It's actually my first time putting anything up on Bandcamp. So, yeah, I mean, I know it gets a lot of positive feedback from musicians. So, seems, it's great to make a little bit extra. I haven't had, crazy sales or anything, but it always surprises me, like, oh, another person decided to pay for MP3s. Cool. It's like, wow, I didn't realize, like, people obviously want to, when they like something or they want to support someone, it's, they're doing it for that purpose, not necessarily having MP3s. But yeah, I mean, got everything on all the, the major streaming platforms, and that's cool. Like, it's just, like I said, like, I haven't really done anything for myself musically in so long that, it's like I'm kind of going through all these firsts that a lot of my talented musician friends who are like lifers, they've had all these firsts 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And like, yeah, even me just having like, wow, it's like, wow, the records arrived. Oh, cool. Like having them in your hand. And so, yeah, just having my shit on Spotify is really cool. I don't know. And yeah, so, and I'm using, a platform called Merch Crush to sell the vinyl and T-shirts. They're a branch of a company called Redwall that's just north of the border in Wisconsin. Here, I'm in Chicago, and so yeah, if people want to check out, we've got some really beautiful vinyl variants and some nice shirts.
Well, yeah, let's get right into it. Let's talk about Plutocracy Planet, the online store. At the moment, you are selling various vinyl variants and shirts. Mm-hmm. The store is easy to navigate. Do you have any plans to expand merch on your online store?
Yeah, I think so. I wanted to just kind of keep things pretty minimal for the first go. I've got another design or two that are sort of in the can that I'll probably throw out there at some point coming up here. Part of it too, like not being a touring thing, and I'm not expecting to make any money off of this thing, not even really make my money back. But, whatever ways I can put things out there, and also just in I guess in a certain sense too, it's another way to just get a little more social media content out there, right? Like, that's the part that I hate the most about all of this. I think like a lot of creative types, I'm not super comfortable promoting myself. Mm-hmm. It's not my favorite thing to do. I don't know. It's like, it's the last thing I'm motivated to work on. So in that sense, it's like, okay, well, I've got another shirt design I'll put out there, and like, hey, check it out. So if you want to buy it, cool. If not, there it is. So, I don't know. We'll see. I've again, just like the couple records where I really wanted to have the vinyl variants. But yeah, I haven't gone down the cassette path, or I don't know, man. Everything's so retro. Yeah. Like, are 8-tracks next? I don't know.
I was just gonna say, I just went to a record store last week here locally, and the owner was stocking up on used 8-tracks that have been stored in somebody's attic. Yeah. So it's making a comeback for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, so CDs, right? Like, people are pressing stuff to CDs now. It's kind of wild.
Absolutely.
We've talked about Chicago quite a bit, but you talked about being involved in the local music scene, whether it's writing or whether it's music, trying to get music going again. But you've talked about some of these other bands being from friends from the scene and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about the Chicago music scene and how is that going right now?
Yeah, I mean, Chicago, like any major metropolitan area, is super vibrant musically, artistically, and I'm pretty out of the loop these days. Try to catch what I can, but I'm probably not the best person to ask, but I know plenty of people who play here, and I kind of cut my teeth back like end of high school, early college years. A lot of my close friends to this day can come from just a local out in DuPage County, western suburbs here, where a lot of us grew up. There was a local basement punk and hardcore scene.
Yes.
And made a lot of, went to shows in friends' basements. Yeah. My parents were cool enough to let me throw shows in our basement, and kind of wild, like, not even just, the amount of, obviously, like, gave kids who weren't into partying something to do, even the ones who were into partying, and I don't know, it's just kind of wild, like like the still kind of early days of internet, right? Like, the connections you'd make from other, underground scenes from other states, had quote unquote touring bands, right? Just like get in a van, like drive from Ohio out to play in my parents' basement in the Chicago suburbs, kind of wild. But yeah, there's no shortage of awesome shit going on in Chicago. I made friends with a lot of jazz dudes because I covered local jazz shows here for a while too. There's so much going on any given night, and I'm very, one of the hardest parts of no longer having a music magazine to edit is not being able to go to, shows for free 5 nights of the week as much as I want. So yeah, that was a tough wake up call, having to pay for shows again.
There you go.
Well, talk a little bit about your days as a magazine editor and transitioning into your own musical project. How's it gone for you? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, just you mean about the magazine itself was Alarm Magazine. There's still some old stuff online, but really folded about 10 years ago, functionally. I don't know. It was a great experience. It led to, I work, I'm a proofreader now, and that was, directly, it was sort of, I got into writing because of music. I have my friend, Dave Hoffer, who actually, speaking of DuPage County and hardcore, he's an archivist now. And Bandcamp, tying it all full circle, he runs a a Bandcamp page, DuPage County Hardcore.bandcamp.com, and he's archived so much stuff that came out of that scene. All just, it's a lot of early demos and stuff that's not, not on major labels, obviously, but yeah, just a lot of there's some really big bands that came out of not just DuPage County, but neighboring counties are all kind of like, oh, these guys know these guys. And
yeah.
So, but anyway, Dave worked for Punk Planet magazine. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I got into writing for them through him, and I connected with Alarm, and I started writing for them. And I was like, I just kind of want to see if I can make this a full-time thing, and just kind of grinded and was a glorified full-time intern for a while, and finally got the gig, and it's long hours and low pay and all that stuff that goes with journalism, especially music journalism. So yeah, I learned a lot along the way about editing and magazine production, and just honed some skills, and again, like, made so many great connections, both in the writing world and music world, and again, like, some of those connections manifest in this album.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, we talked a little bit about your gunshot wound and recovery. What a horrific experience that must have been. I can't, most of us, we're walking there from our neighborhoods, going to our friend's house, thinking we're going to be safe, and then something like a tragedy like that happens. Can you talk a little bit about your recovery and how that has, changed you as an artist?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that it changed me at all as an artist, but it certainly makes me appreciate everything a lot more.
Yeah.
And appreciate the fact that this whole ambitious thing was able to be completed and put out there. I would have really felt bad looking down as a ghost, being like, all right, Mark, you gotta finish the album now, buddy. It's about halfway there, But yeah, it was, it's hard to describe in a lot of ways, of course. It was, I don't know. Yeah. The details of it are, I was walking, late at night, and it was, I was in a neighborhood here in Chicago where there was, every year there's a really rambunctious Puerto Rican pride celebration. Mm-hmm. And, people are out and having a good time. And there's always, you always hear about, there's some increased shootings around it every year. And I was just walking to a friend's place, it was late, it was around midnight, but everyone was out. There were still so many people out in the street, on the sidewalks, just kind of having a good time. I didn't feel inherently unsafe or anything, And I got hit in the back with a stray bullet while I was listening to headphones. I didn't see or hear anything. And passed out in the grass. Cops woke me up, got to the hospital, emergency surgery, lost some organs, and began the recovery, and kept getting sick, and was told by the second hospital I went to that I had an abscess. Went back to the first hospital that operated me. They were like, you don't have an abscess. We just think that your insides look different now. Like, oh, okay, well, that's good news, right? And then just kept getting sick and went to a third hospital. Like, you have a really bad abscess. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. And so, just that was a whole trying to get that under control was, an near endless. I mean, it did end, but it was an ordeal that was ever ongoing, and almost died from septic shock. One of the times that I ended up back in the hospital, and the most agony I've ever been in, again, you can't really describe it to anyone, but makes you so much more grateful. Obviously, we all take everything for granted every day, right? Yeah, exactly. Most things for granted.
Yeah.
And just, finally turning the corner, recovering, being able to walk around without tubes coming out of me because, you know, I had a PICC line, I had a drainage tube. Like there were multiple months where it was like, whether I was in or out of the hospital, I just had tubes with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, it's hard even once you recover to not take those things for granted, and pain that's excruciating in the moment becomes a distant memory. And you sort of kind of remember what it felt like, but not really. So yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm extremely grateful to be here, obviously, and to be basically back to full health and living a normal life and be able to share this music and this, you know, and hopefully do bigger and better things for a second album.
Absolutely. So yeah, that leads to the next question is, you know, as we encroach the end of 2024, it's hard to believe that we're almost 70% through 2024, but, you know, what are your plans for 2025? Are new music, new album? What do your fans, what do we have to look forward to?
Yeah, well, we'll see. I've got plenty of ideas in mind. I think, yeah, I mean, since this has been a self-released endeavor, and you know, I had some PR help and obviously all the help with the mixing and but like, yeah, just getting everything out there has, you know, it's basically been a one-man show kind of thing. So, you know, looking forward to a little downtime of not really working too hard on stuff. Enjoy these final last few weeks of summer. Yeah. But yeah, I think this fall, this winter, I definitely want to get back to. Yeah, I want to start what I would like to be the core of the next album. I would like for it not to take 4 years like the first one. Hopefully streamline a few things, and I think it'll be easier to get both, you know, folks who I approached a lot of people for the first one, and I'm hoping that some of those that where it didn't work out the first time around, hopefully for the second one. And I think just, you know, having it out there, having the proof of concept, having stuff that exists and people can hear, and I think it'll be, I would hope, easier to talk people into being involved with it. So we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I've got, depending on how things go, maybe put out a song or two next year.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I have one last question for you, and this is one I'm gonna throw a curveball at Jeff here too. So you're a man. Okay. You're a man of eclectic musical taste, as I am myself.
Yeah.
We're gonna go through a little round table here. What have you been listening to? So what is in your, or what's on your turntable? What's in your CD player, or what's in your 8-track player, or your cassette player? What have you been listening to?
Oh man, putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
I am. I am so, you know, I try to keep up. I'm not, I'm a huge Chicago Bears and football fan. Mm-hmm. So like right now I'm in pure football mode and like fantasy football mode. But so, and just in general though, I try to, like, for stuff that comes out every year, I like to keep an annual Spotify playlist of stuff that comes out that year. And then just listen to it throughout the course of the year, maybe make a little, like, my favorite 50 songs of the year at the end of the year kind of a thing.
Oh, there you
go. Yeah, like, let's see. Oh, you know, Old Boy Rhymes. He is someone that I actually would love to, I've reached out to. Hopefully he'll work with me on a next album. He's on Sage Francis's label, Strange Famous. He just came out, like, he's a new artist, and similarly he has a lot of other really awesome guests on his album, and it's also very socio-political, and it's also, you know, I think I don't want to you know, define his project, but it seems to me that, you know, maybe we're on similar wavelengths of sort of coming at things from a progressive viewpoint, but also seeing, you know, being willing to talk about how fucked up, you know, our corporate duopoly is, and like, yeah, like the mainstream news in particular, you're going to get one side of the story, no matter what you listen to, you know? And so, yeah, I'm hoping personally that to lean into a little more of that. But his album's great. Yeah. In terms of heavy stuff, Many Eyes. Have you heard the Many Eyes album or the new EP that just came out?
No, I have not.
As Keith Buckley from Every Time I Die.
Mm-hmm.
And then his bandmates joined up with Greg Puciato, formerly of Dillinger Escape Plan, and they've got a new hardcore band called Better Lovers. That's really pretty ripping stuff. Yeah, let's see. Well, my friend Audie is great. Her artist name is Aud Whitson.
Mm-hmm.
She's a good friend of mine that I'm hoping to work with on the second album. She's a gorgeous singer and has really beautiful singer-songwriter work. Definitely check out her new stuff. My friend Brendan, who goes back to the same sort of hardcore, artsy, post-hardcore world, he's got this whole kind of ambient, down-tempo, beat-driven project called The 100 Words. He's just been slowly releasing stuff on Spotify. It's really kind of, I don't know, almost like meditative. That's super cool. The new Zeal and Ardor album, I need to go back to that because that's really, really fucking good. The new St. Vincent album I like a lot.
Nice.
Looking for, I don't think the new Jesus Lizard comes out next month, I think.
I believe so.
Man. I like the new Man album a lot. If you're familiar with them, they're kind of quirky, quirk pop, I guess. With a lot of there's vibraphone and sax, and there's all sorts of instrumentation, and it's like they've toured as like a 3-piece band and an 8-piece band. And yeah, just very kind of a little off the wall, but really, really catchy stuff.
Oh, very good.
Oh, and I gotta name drop one more.
Yeah.
My buddy Adam Stacy, who's one of multiple members of the band Stratosphere, one of my all-time favorite bands that's defunct, but a couple of them, including my buddy Jason Schimmel, who plays in Secret Chiefs 3, another one of my all-time favorite bands who does just incredible progressive genre-hopping stuff, was so fortunate and honored that both of them were on a couple of my tracks on my album. Adam has this new project called Snail Force, and it's pretty similar to some of the Stratosphere stuff in that it's like progressive metal mixed with Balkan, Eastern European folk, and kind of there's moments of funk, and it's all instrumental, but it's just wild shit, and so the wildest stuff I could ever program on a computer is no match for that stuff. So Snail Force !
Very good.
Nice.
Jeff, what do you got cooking over there?
Well, for me, it's not really a band or CD that I don't think he has any product out there. But I recently went to New Orleans for work, and I was walking around Bourbon Street, and I stopped in this little blues bar, and there was a 3-piece. I think they're just a local act that goes around. I know they play all over Louisiana, Mississippi, and stuff like that. But it was the Sam Forshee Band, I think is what they were called. But little 3-piece blues band that I grew up. We're not too far from you, from Chicago, so love Chicago blues style, and it's a little 3-piece blues act that just blew me away. They were really good. So hopefully they go on to bigger and better things. And then CD wise, I picked up. Even though I think I have every Mudhoney there is, I bought Super Fuzz Big Muff Mudhoney on a re-release that had an extra live album. So I was jamming to that the other day.
Yeah, very good. Well,
we're around Chicago, are you guys?
We're in the Quad Cities, just about 2.5-3 hours west of you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
Well, right now in my CD player right now, I've been listening to Dr. Octagon, the Octacologist.
Oh, yes.
The
classic.
horror-haunted hip-hop. And on my turntable, I went back to the mid-'80s and I've been spinning Robert Plant's Now and Zen. So, yeah, a little eclectic there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a Cool Keith fan, do you know the project Planet B? He's only on one track, but Planet B with Justin Pearson from The Locust and Dead Cross and a million other bands, and it's sort of his I don't know what the best way to describe it is, but it's very almost like a B-movie synth stuff.
Yes.
And Cool Keith is on one of their songs. It's really great.
I'm going to tell you right now, Cool Keith has never got enough credit in the hip-hop industry. The guy is brilliant. Totally brilliant. So we're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm just flattered. I'm honored you guys called, and anyone who checks it out, I'm extremely grateful. Plutocracy Planet, hopefully we'll have a whole arc here. We'll see. I'm trying to make it it's always going to be a labor of love side project thing, but maybe we'll have a show one of these days. Who knows?
Fantastic.
Nice.
And then bring it to the Quad Cities and perform it live so we can see you here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, if you guys had to drive a few hours to Chicago, that won't be the worst thing, right?
I suppose we could do that. So, well, hey, this is how things are going to work out. Once Jeff, the editing ninja over here, gets it all cleaned up, he's going to make all of us sound like $1 million. Can you believe that?
Beautiful.
Scott, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. I'll blast it out when it's up. So just keep me posted.
All right, man. We appreciate it.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
skies. Move to the sunshine. Fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. They roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.